Welcome to Mr. Grimm's Realm of the Unseen. I'm Mr. Grimm, your guide to the supernatural and the spine-chilling. If you crave thrills and mysteries, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe and join me as we explore the darkest corners of the unknown. Are you ready to face your fears? When I first met Max, the golden retriever, I thought I was doing a good deed. He was just lying there, tail wagging, eyes sparkling with a mix of mischief and affection. His previous owner had passed away, and the shelter's staff assured me he was a gentle soul in need of a new home. I wasn't prepared for the strange turns our lives would take. The first couple of weeks were idyllic. Max adapted quickly, his presence bringing warmth to my otherwise quiet apartment. But then, odd things started happening. I noticed the way he'd fixate on certain spots, his ears twitching as if he were listening to whispers in a language I couldn't understand. At night, I'd hear soft scratching noises coming from the walls, but whenever I checked, everything was fine. One evening, after a particularly unsettling day, I was in the living room reading a book when I saw Max staring at me intently from across the room. His gaze was unnervingly intense, and the way he tilted his head made me shiver. I shook off the feeling, attributing it to stress. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing soft murmurs and rustling sounds. I tried to ignore them, but sleep eluded me. Then, in the dead of night, I woke up to find Max sitting at the edge of my bed, staring at me with those same unnerving eyes. I tried to comfort myself with logic. Dogs have strange habits, right? But it got worse. One morning, as I prepared breakfast, Max's behavior grew increasingly odd. He would dart to the window, growling lowly, then retreat to a corner and watch me. When I approached him to calm him down, he'd suddenly switch to a playful demeanor, wagging his tail as if nothing happened. I began to question my sanity. Was Max really a dog, or was something else entirely hiding behind those golden fur and gentle eyes? My imagination, fed by the countless horror stories I'd read, started to run wild. I stumbled upon tales of skinwalkers, mythical creatures capable of taking the form of animals. The stories all spoke of how these beings would display unsettling behavior before revealing their true nature. Every time I saw Max's eyes glinting in the dark or heard the scratching noises in the walls, I couldn't shake the feeling that something sinister was at play. My rational mind wrestled with my fears, but my anxiety grew, pushing me towards the edge. One particularly stormy night, I woke to find the house eerily silent. I got out of bed to check on Max, who was unusually still in his bed. As I approached, I saw his eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. I took a step back, heart racing, convinced, that something was terribly wrong. Just then, Max stood up, stretched, and let out a big yawn. He padded over to me, his usual affectionate self, as if sensing my fear. I couldn't help but laugh nervously. Was I really convinced that my beloved dog was a skinwalker? The thought seemed absurd, but the fear had been real. The next morning, I decided to confront my fears. I talked to a friend who was knowledgeable about local folklore and myths. She listened patiently, then reassured me that while the tales of skinwalkers were compelling, there was no evidence to suggest they were real. More likely, my stress and vivid imagination were playing tricks on me. I took her words to heart and resolved to focus on the present, on Max's genuine affection and the happy moments we shared. Gradually, the unease faded. Max continued to be the loyal, loving companion I had first brought home. In the end, I realized that the true magic was not in ancient myths, but in the simple joy of having a friend by my side. So here we are now, Max and I, settled into a routine that's anything but supernatural. It turns out that sometimes the scariest monsters are just the ones we create in our minds. And sometimes the most comforting presence is the one that's been there all along, even if it took a few sleepless nights to realize it.